Are you ready to create your own wealth and become financially independent? Learn how to grow and keep your money and start today even if you're not at your desired income yet. And by the way, you don't need a six-figure income to start multiplying your money. Tuesday, January the 12th at 7 p.m, I am holding my free masterclass on how to create your own wealth and become financially independent. And here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn what to do with your money to make it work for you rather than you working for money. Find out how to get started investing even if you don't have a clue. Money doesn't have to be difficult, scary, or hard to acquire. Understand how to keep your money in your life and allow the money you earn to grow. And guys, who's this masterclass for? If you are a female entrepreneur wanting to learn how to grow and keep your money, and you want to learn how to get started investing, understanding the principles of wealth, you would like to have a better relationship with money, you desire to have your money support your dream life, you dream of not being dependent on others for money, then I want you to click on the link below and join us on the 12th of January. Look forward to seeing you there. Take care. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast with your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets to creating wealth, investing, and that all-important money mindset. To find out more and accelerate your journey to financial freedom, head on over to www.lornapoole.com to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Financial Freedom Podcast. Such an interesting time we're in. Wouldn't you love to push past the COVID-19 related issues and reactivate your revenue and profit in your business? Well, my guest expert today, Jeremy Harbour, acquired a competitor in the telecoms industry without cash or involving a bank, proving that he's the mother of invention. He figured out a deal structure that worked for the company he wanted to buy. And in a single afternoon, he grew a year's worth of sales that solidified him becoming a deal junkie. He's globally renowned expert in mergers and acquisitions in the field of small to medium-sized businesses. Jeremy speaks all over the world to advise on matters of business and enterprise. He's been in the Sunday Times, Financial Times, and other publications, as well as appearing on the Money Channel. Jeremy is the founder of United Group, a firm specialised in attracting investments and creating opportunities for MSEs to scale. He has advised on more than 300 acquisitions of both distressed and solvent businesses. He has a good deal. He pursued acquiring business telecoms, health clubs, spas, music schools, IT training, business process outsourcing, cleaning, air conditioning, cooking school, to name just a few. He's invested in 12 countries. Germany's passion for changing the mindset of wealth creating fueled the birth of the Harbour Club, which teaches real tactics for buying, fixing, and selling business with no experience, no cash up front. With new members every month, has become a change engine for the good, helping entrepreneurs excel in wealth creation. Jeremy, great to have you here.
Great. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
What an interesting area to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most entrepreneurs don't really realise that as well as sales and marketing, there are other ways to grow a company. That you can actually acquire your competitors without taking too much risk and grow that way too.
Yeah, like I'm reading here that you're doing this without cash or involving a bank, and I think also it's interesting you said that entrepreneurs can make money in other ways apart from marketing and sales, which was exactly where my head would have been. I didn't even think there would be another option. So how did you get involved? How does somebody go about it? And then we'll get to the issues.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, it was kind of a little bit accidental. So, I mean, I had a telecoms company that grew very quickly. It wasn't my first startup. I'd done a number of startups in my early sort of teens, and then this was just one that happened to get some traction. And telecoms are just very acquisitive, so I had people pitching me the whole time trying to buy my business, and it was really being on the other side of the table, people trying to buy me that was, I guess, my earliest education in M&A, and I really repurposed those meetings and switched it around the other way and became the buyer instead of the seller. And that was really my first deal. And I haven't looked back since then, because once I kind of realized it was possible, it just seemed like an incredible way to grow a business without all the blood, the sweat, and the years. It's a different set of challenges. I'm not going to say it's easy, but but the juice is worth the squeeze, because you get quite big upside when you complete one of these deals.
Yeah, so you went through it yourself, and then you just switched around to buying instead of selling. And so you're in the business of acquisition and merging companies.
Yeah, so effectively, I mean, our main, my main sort of thrust now is I focus on small to medium-sized owner-managed businesses that have between 1 to 10 million of annual profits. So in the kind of corporate world, that would be considered extremely small. In the kind of small business arena, that's probably the upper end of small business. But on the Harbour Club, we focus on all sorts of, that's my focus personally. In the Harbour Club, we focus on all sorts of things. Most of the deals I see going on in the Harbour Club are probably between 1 to 5 million of annual turnover, so much smaller. And I would say probably about a third of those would be distressed companies, so companies that have found themselves in a bit of a pickle financially, that you're able to pick up for nothing. Or the other 70% is, what I would say would be solvent operating businesses that make a profit, but perhaps not in really sexy industries, or not been able to find a buyer through a traditional exit. And so can be acquired in an opportunistic fashion without using, like I say, cash or having to borrow loads of money from banks.
And COVID might be in your favor then, would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of polished my skills. So the first deals that I did were sort of between about year 2000 and year 2006. I'd done a dozen deals by 2006, and I sold a company back then and decided to focus just on buying and selling. And then, of course, while I was focused on just buying and selling, we landed in the global financial crisis, and I probably created about half my wealth in the 3 years from after 2009. And it was obviously a very good time for picking up businesses, consolidating industries, putting companies together in different sectors. Obviously we have that sort of an opportunity. Again, obviously it's tragic in a lot of cases, but there is an opportunity to save jobs, to save people's livelihoods, to restructure companies that otherwise would disappear forever. So I think there's some really good stuff that can come out of this, and obviously a lot of the great fortunes have been made during recessions.
Yeah, that's true. So we're here speaking about how to reactivate revenue and profits. So if you have a business, COVID-19, you're being told to shut, or you're not selling what you used to sell, what do they need to look at? Where do they need to go from there?
Yeah, so look, there's a number of things. The first thing is obviously execute all the turnaround strategies that you would normally execute if you were turning around a business that was failing. Even if you don't feel like you're failing, you're just sort of temporarily switched off. There's lots of information on the internet about that. I publish loads of stuff on YouTube about that kind of stuff. But you need to be in attack mode, not in sort of defense mode at that point. I saw this very much in the last Great Recession, which was the business community splits roughly into two, and part of the community buries their head in the sand and just waits for everything to go back to normal, and the other half proactively jump on and start doing stuff. You need to be in that other half. You need to be in the half that's proactively doing stuff, because you never know, it might not go back to normal. There might be a new normal. Everything is up in the air right now. You need to be making sure that whatever business you have, you're executing some kind of revenue stream. And I've seen even businesses that are completely closed down, like beauty salons and bars and things like that were completely closed. I've seen them come up with packages and schemes and things that they can do that help them generate revenue during the close down, whether it's a cocktail making masterclass on Zoom or a 7-day skin detox or whatever through a beauty salon.
No, I see it. I see it here in Ireland. We are famous for our pubs, but they're not allowed open, and they're coming up with inventive ideas of how to bring in money.
Exactly. So you need to be in the half of the businesses that are doing something creative to try and create cash flow. And then secondly, I would say start looking opportunistically at other businesses in the same sector that you could potentially acquire as we come out of recession. So again, pubs are a great example. What you'll find with a lot of pubs and bars is that landlords haven't been very forgiving, and they've continued to charge rent for the entire time they've been closed down. And so there are opportunities to effectively pick up, these bars that will go into bankruptcy. They will no longer owe that rent to the landlord because they will go through a bankruptcy process, which writes off that debt. And you're able to pick up a fully refurbished, ready to go venue. Likewise, beauty salons or any of those kind of businesses that had to close down, if they've got themselves into financial trouble because of having to close down, there's an opportunity to help retain their staff, retain their brand, retain their business, and take it over. And lots of people say, well, why can't you just help the existing business owners to do that? Well, unfortunately, because they were the ones that they were holding the ball when this thing got into trouble. So what you tend to find is that they've burnt the bridges with the landlord and with the other suppliers. And so you being a fresh face, a new kid on the block, if you like, you're very well positioned to come in and rescue the business going forwards and to create value. So if you're in a business that is fragmented, i.e. you've got lots and lots of small competitors, then it's a great time to consolidate some of those smaller players and be really well positioned when the economy starts to snap back. And I mean, we're already seeing signs of that. I haven't actually seen Ireland's figures, but I saw the UK retail figures for July were back to pre-COVID levels. I mean, it's really snapped back very, very quickly because this is an unusual recession. Normally a recession is due to some systemic problem in the economy, whereas actually this recession was because we chose to switch off the economy in order to protect the healthcare sector from being overwhelmed. And so there wasn't anything really wrong with it. So when you switch it back on, everybody's got quite a bit of money. There's been all sorts of stimulus, pumped into the system as well. So there's it's a very different recovery, I think, to a traditional recession where the thing that caused the recession, like a property crash or whatever it is, normally has to wash itself out of the system first. Whereas in this recession, we don't really have that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two things, right? So first, I'm going to try and turn my business around, come up with income streams, get cash flow coming in the door. And if that's not happening, there's an opportunity to acquire similar businesses.
I would say both. Yeah, I would say have both.
Do both.
Think of them as two. Yeah, think of them as two engines on the plane. Always better to have two engines than one engine. Have an organic strategy and an acquisition strategy.
When you acquire a business getting into trouble, what exactly are you taking on? What about all the legal stuff or debts and things like that? What happens all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really good point. I think where a lot of people get it wrong is they use their existing business as the contracting party. So their current company, enters into a contract with this company that's got itself into a pickle, and that can lead to quite a few issues. So the best way to do it is to create a new business, a new company, an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, which is just a standalone limited company that's separate to your current business, and you use that as the acquisition vehicle to go and buy the distressed business. Now, the easiest way to do it is you just buy 100% of the shares through this SPV, and then you restructure the company. Now, that might mean that you put it through a bankruptcy and buy the assets into the SPV, or it may mean you're able to save the existing company and just do a deal with all of your creditors. But all of that happens at arm's length through this separate company. Now, of course, if it's in the same industry as you, if it's use that beauty salon example again. If you're a beauty salon owner and this is another beauty salon, it's owned by the separate SPV, but there's no reason why you can't intertrade, share resources, work closely together as a separate company. You don't have to put everything into one group. In fact, it's often much safer and easier and cheaper not to.
And what about this no cash or involving the bank?
Absolutely. Look, borrowing money from banks to buy businesses is really, really dumb. It gets touted by a lot of people as a way to do things, and I think a lot of people have jumped on this bandwagon. They're trying to sell you, training courses and stuff based on these ideas, but the idea of using an LBO, as it's called, a leveraged buyout for a distressed company is a really, really bad idea, because when you borrow money against a company, effectively that money that you've borrowed belongs to that company. And, there is a fiduciary duty to the creditors of that company to be paid before anybody else. So if you take that money out and use it to acquire the business, you've preferred yourself as a creditor. So you can get yourself into all sorts of legal trouble doing that. Now, if a company is distressed, it's demonstrably not worth anything if it's losing money. So you should be buying the shares, and you should be buying the shares for a pound. You can have some upside to the previous owner if you're able to turn it around and rescue it. But you have to remember, if you're not there, that business is going to go into insolvency, and everybody's going to lose everything. So everybody will lose their jobs, all of the creditors will lose all of their money, and the shareholders will lose all of their share value. So anything that you do is an improvement or one last roll of the dice, if you like, over that particular outcome. So that's really what you're presenting to these business owners in a distressed case anyway, is that you're a one last roll of the dice better option than putting the thing into insolvency.
And how do you choose which business worth acquiring and what's a red flag, stay away?
So look, if you're in the beauty salon business, for example, then you'll probably be able to recognize what a reasonable beauty salon looks like, and what would have the potential to bounce back after we come out of this crisis. I mean, the great thing about limited companies is if you do get it wrong, you can close the company down, and your liability is limited to the paid up capital in that company. So unless you've done something really bad, unless you've breached your fiduciary duties in any way, then there is no recourse. You can simply liquidate it. And particularly as the business got into trouble under somebody else's watch, and you're just there trying to help it recover. If you're unable to help it recover, then that's not seen as being, a particularly bad thing. So so it's really identifying businesses that had, enough revenue before they dropped off a cliff, that can recover, that have, the relationship with customers and everything to be able to bounce back when the economy starts to bounce back.
And also, you said here that it's telecoms, health clubs, spas, music schools, IT training. When you're acquiring these businesses, you don't have the knowledge specifically in all these areas. So
that's correct.
How does that work? You have someone else who that's their expertise. You're just
normally the management within the business. So
you're already keeping the staff and the management. You're just
becoming a shareholder, basically. Yeah. So I mean, those were just examples of very early deals that I did when I first started out. I mean, recently we've bought a taxi company, a training business, a motorhome and caravan sales business. So it's really eclectic mix of. We describe it as sector agnostic.
And is that how you build your financial freedom, your net worth?
Yeah, I mean, look, the great thing about doing deals is it creates capital events. So what I realized when I was running a business is when you run a business, you create income, and income is just what you spend, or if you're anything like me, income is a bit less than you spend. And what I realized is that when you sell a business, you create a capital event, and the capital event enables you to deploy a chunk of capital into generating genuine passive income, and it's that genuine passive income that gives you your financial freedom. And clearly, the more capital events you can have, the more interesting that becomes. And, you can get to a point relatively quickly where the income from your capital deployed is covering all of your day-to-day expenses. So instead of having to work for income, your income is already being generated by your deployed capital, and you can then focus on more fun things. And that for me is real. I call it escape velocity investing, getting to that period where your income from your investments is the covering all of your expenses. Really, I guess it's financial freedom in language.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. So you're a shareholder, and then you've capital events which are put into passive income streams.
Yeah.
What are your passive income stream? Like writing books, like you've royalties, or what?
No, not so much. I have written books, but as anyone that's written books will know, that doesn't. I actually just gave my last royalties to charity because they dribble in. It's actually more difficult to treat the income for tax purposes and stuff like that. So I tend to give it away. No, so I'm a big proponent of private wealth banking. And so private wealth banking gives you access to all of the usual kind of mutual funds and funds that normal people are allowed to buy, but without all of the costs associated with them. So, most mutual funds have a big drag on their ability to make you money because of the fees that are built into them. With private wealth banking, you get the institutional version of those funds, so it's much cheaper. You can also buy direct bonds. You can buy things like fixed coupon notes, which are like an option strategy, which gives you a very high yield. So with private wealth banking, you have a few advantages. One of them is that you can easily generate double-digit interest returns on your capital deployed without taking very much risk. You can also do what's called Lombard lending. So effectively, normally if you're a saver, you either save your money or spend your money. You don't have the option to do both. But with private wealth banking, you can invest all of your money, so it's generating this double-digit return, and you can also borrow against that investment portfolio at 0.7% per year, so less than 1% interest. So for capex kind of things that you want to go and spend, you can do it through this line of credit effectively against your investments, and that's really, really transformational to your wealth. But the challenge is you have to have a 10 million net worth in order to start on the private wealth banking ladder, and even then quite a few of the banks turn people away at that sort of level. So it really is one of those tricks that keeps the rich getting richer and the poor staying poor, because the advantages are just absolutely huge, but only available when you're already significantly wealthy.
Yeah, wow. How do you even find out about this or educate yourself?
Randomly. Many years ago, I was looking to finance a property in Spain, and just happened to ask one of the banks in a building near where I live in Singapore about it, and they explained this Lombard lending to me, and as they were explaining it to me, I just couldn't believe that existed. And it's incredible. But it's the banks that do this are people like UBS, Credit Suisse, Julius Baer, who I use personally. I'm on their website. But those really large private wealth banks that provide that service, and it's an eye opener. It's a whole education in itself. You spend your whole life learning about business, and then you have to learn about wealth. It's a whole
new level, isn't it? Jeremy, this has been an amazing conversation, and I'm fascinated about what you do, probably as you can tell by the questions. So somebody who's, they're in COVID, they're looking at reactivating their revenue and profit, they're looking at their options. What's that kind of last thing you want to leave the listener with?
If you really want to find some more stuff out, I actually, way before COVID, about 6 or 7 months ago, I started to do this 21-day email course, a training course on how to find and buy companies. And then obviously COVID happened. Everything's turned into a bit of a crazy, a crazy world. And so while we were kicking around as a team what I should do with this course, we decided we'd actually give it away. So instead of selling it, we're going to give it away with anybody that pre-orders my next book. So if anyone wants to, they can just go to godo.deals, which is a great URL, because the book is called Go Do Deals. But if they go to godo.deals and pre-order the book comes out in December. They'll get completely free this 21-day course, and we've had some really good feedback on this as well. It's really helped a lot of people understand just the basics of how you find a company, how you acquire it, some of the turnaround strategies you can use, all of that kind of stuff. So if any of your listeners want to take advantage of that, go for it, and hopefully it can help them start to understand a bit more about this journey, because it is a big, complex area.
It is, and very fascinating. And when I speak to somebody like yourself, Jeremy, it just makes the penny drop. There's so much possibilities out there, and I want to thank you for sharing it, and thank you for being here.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, to creating wealth, investing, and developing your money mindset. To get started today on your journey, head on over to www.lornapoole.com and grab your free course, 5 steps to breaking free from your poverty mindset and accelerating your journey to financial freedom. See you there.